I don't have enough faith to accept atheism. Rather, I have enough faith to accept theism.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
People seem to get upset at this saying, assuming that faith is only for religious people, those who don't have evidence, claim that the atheist position is that atheism isn't a belief system. It's simply not believing there is a God. It has no rules, no holy text, etc. It's simply just someone who doesn't accept that God exists, or that you're not supposed to have faith in atheism. It's the lack of faith in religion. While some individuals are trying to be genuine, believing they're doing the right thing, correcting this lying theist, many skeptics may accept any statement regarding to theism in regards to faith, citing, faith is belief without evidence, or in the face of contrary evidence, and that faith in the context of religion doesn't mean what I'm quoting it to mean. They claim that the faith I'm describing in the videos is a strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. But many fail to understand the definitions being used to describe faith. As the definition of faith is trust or confidence in someone or something, as different definitions have faith being complete trust, firm trust, or just trust in general. Now in the video I will add the word complete to the saying, faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something, to emphasize my faith and lack of faith in regards to theism and atheism. As some people will claim that their faith isn't complete, but they still have some level of trust since they accept it, as it still fits under faith. You can say that the faith I'm using is complete or unwavering, and another person may call their faith partial or simple. But whether we claim that our faith is either complete or partial is irrelevant for now, as there is still a level of trust and confidence in something that could be classified as the basic sense of faith. This definition could easily be applied to this saying, I do not have the complete confidence to accept atheism. Rather, I have the complete confidence to accept theism. I mean, we could break it down even further to the basic definitions of atheism and theism, as I do not have complete confidence or confidence in general to accept the lack of belief in deities. Rather, I have the complete confidence to accept the belief in deities, but based on my interactions, skeptics don't want to be grouped with anyone who believes in a God, assuming that having faith in the existence of a God means you're a part of a religion by default, and that I can't use a certain definition for faith. Respectfully, that's arrogant. To assume a definition of a word does not apply to you just because you don't want to be labeled with a certain group of people who uses a neutral word that you assume only applies to them. How is it that skeptics could agree that I can have complete confidence to accept theism, but somehow that definition of faith doesn't apply if I literally use what the definition is? Some atheists claim that one cannot simply accept atheism. It isn't something to accept or reject, and that I do not accept atheism. No, I am an atheist. Well, I'm not asking atheists to give me what they believe atheism should entail, but rather I'm describing the basic sense of atheism, the lack of belief in deities, and that I don't have enough faith to accept that. It's like saying, I don't accept that I'm black, I'm just black.
Shoot, well I got rave at a lie go.
Or, I don't accept that I'm a man, I'm just a man. I mean, I accept that I am a black man. The same way an atheist accepts atheism. American atheists claim to define atheism as simply a rejection of the assertion that there are gods. An atheist, therefore, is someone who rejects the assertion that there are gods. And if an atheist rejects the assertion that there are gods, it can be said that they accept the rejection of that assertion. This is because accepting the rejection of a claim is equivalent to rejecting the claim itself. Therefore, an atheist, or anyone who accepts the rejection of an assertion that there are gods, can be said to accept atheism under the given definition. And if you accept atheism, it could be said that you have confidence in that it is true, as we're not talking about Gnostic versus agnostic, but rather atheism versus theism, as an atheist has faith in atheism. But some skeptics may claim that I started with the definition of faith, which doesn't fit the topic of religion. Maybe I just did a poor job in preparation, or that I just did it on purpose. The definition of faith is taken from the same dictionary related to religion is a strong belief in God on the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. So can my faith in a God fit in this definition? I mean, sure. To an extent, based off this definition, in some regard, you could fit it there. Then again, other definitions of faith say belief in God or in the doctrines or teachings of religion, or the trust in God and His promises as made through Christ and the scriptures by which humans are justified or saved. None of these imply that faith does not have evidence. To apply that definition to how I've been using faith in describing theism or faith in God, because I seemingly have no evidence, is false. Or forgetting just because the definition of a word uses one form of a definition doesn't mean the other definition can't apply. Michael Jordan is a human being, but apparently he's not a man because that's two different definitions. Or I guess the second definition of water means it's not a colorless, transparent, odorless liquid that forms the seas, lakes, rivers, and rain and is the basis of the fluids of the living organisms. Now, obviously, that does not apply to every word. You should understand that just because one definition applies to one version of the word doesn't negate the other definition. I mean, dictionary.com had like 8 definitions of faith as a noun. That's not the name of a girl. The easiest way to figure out is what I done earlier. Replace the word with the definition in a sentence. If I say, I'm going to cash my check at the bank, I could either be saying, I'm going to cash my check at a financial establishment that invests money, deposited by customers, pays it out when required, makes loans at an interest, and exchange currency. Or, I'm going to cash my check at the land along slide or sloping down to a river or lake. Which one sounds correct? Then again, if you haven't noticed, the word bank having those numbers infer to there being 2 meanings of bank. Faith doesn't have that. Faith is just trust in something. So therefore, it can easily apply in the uses of faith I've been using. Skeptics may claim no adequate evidence means definition number 2. We just talked about definition number 2. But no evidence? Have you even watched the video? Okay, I advise you to watch the video before you make a comment. Most of the time, comments will ask questions on things I gave the answer to in the video. If you want to have a conversation, I usually try to be live on YouTube during the weekdays at 4 Eastern. I don't know which, during the weekdays. But this evidence, I gave 3. Prayer, the moral belief, and the theological argument. I'm not going over those 3 again, as I basically went over those reasons in 2 videos. But the reasons are evidence. Now again, just because I gave those as my evidence, doesn't mean you have to accept that evidence, or I don't expect you to accept that evidence. But the evidence isn't for you, as the evidence was for why I don't have enough faith to accept atheism. And I probably say almost every post. If a man has faith that leprechauns existed because he saw a fake documentary he believed to be true, the reason he had faith was because his evidence was the documentary he believed to be true. You can question the evidence, as there's a difference between looking at the evidence and evaluating the validity of it versus outright rejecting the evidence entirely just because it doesn't fit what you believe to be evidence. Just look at this dumbbell. I have faith that this dumbbell is 30 pounds exactly. A big piece of evidence is that big 30 right there. I could say I know it's 30 pounds, but there is a possibility, small one perhaps, that it could be half an ounce off. I don't weigh my dumbbells before lifts, but based on the evidence provided, I have faith that it's 30 pounds. Evidence, in simplest terms, is something that furnishes proof. Evidence is not limited to only being the scientific or historical consensus, but can also be personal experiences, as personal experiences are something that furnishes proof. Now, personal experiences aren't the only reason why I believe that Christ is the Messiah, the Son of God, but personal experiences play a part for almost everyone to have faith in something. You need evidence to have faith in the first place. Believers in Christ are commanded to have faith because of the evidence provided to them. For example, one of Moses' evidence was experiencing a burning bush. Abraham had experiences with God. The disciples saw miracles and heard from Christ himself of how he was raised from the dead. These people had evidence to drive their conclusion on faith. Now, there are some verses that seem to say that faith doesn't have evidence. But just like almost every biblical error, phrase, or contradiction in the Bible, it can be explained by reading the chapter in whole. Verses like Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 is often quoted by skeptics citing that faith is belief without evidence, or in the face of contrary evidence. Well, for one, it doesn't say that. Number 2, you have to at least read the whole chapter if you're not reading the whole letter. 3, this hope for is transliterated from the Greek word elpizo, which this hope is defined as expected and is not some holy hoping for the best. There's a reason to have this hope. You don't expect something if it's not true. And lastly, everyone has faith in things they can't see. Atoms, magnetism, the unknown of making it to your job safely. That's faith. I expect to make it to my job safely even though I'm not in my car yet, as no man can fully grasp the decisions God makes. Believers have a sense of faith based on the certainty that God will deliver, even though we don't and may not see it in our lifetimes. based on some evidence we experienced in the past. I mean, there'll be other videos that can explain other verses and give it more depth. Just look to the description right there. But you must understand, when one says they have or don't have enough faith, there's a reason for that decision based on some evidence. Faith isn't a concept exclusive to religious or theistic individuals. It's a universal human experience that applies to both those who accept theism or atheism. It's about trust and confidence, which is based off of evidence. Whether one chooses to have faith in the existence of deities or in their absence is a personal decision based on individual experiences. As based on the evidence, I don't have enough faith to accept atheism.